What the city is talking about. This is Montreal Now on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. He is over at the Montreal Gazette. And Jim, on what is supposed to be a pretty quiet news day, quite the introduction to Canadians who are paying attention to Mark Carney, who, as I said, ever since the Chrystia Freeland incident, so this goes back to last Monday, right? We've heard not a single word, I don't think, out of Mark Carney until today. So let's get into this.
Well, indeed, yeah, you're quite right. I mean, when last seen, he was fleeing the scene of the head-on collision between Justin Trudeau and his very close friend, Chrystia Freeland. And this is not a guy who machine guns tweets out, over, the news of the day. Up until today's tweet, he had basically been reporting the proceedings of what looks like a real humdinger of a conference he attended back in November. But here we go. I mean, everyone's making lots of noises about the increasingly erratic and quite frankly dysfunctional, musings from Donald J. Trump as he sits on his toilet at 3 a.m. His latest trolling of Canada would be how the country would be if we just joined the U.S. We'd have lower taxes. It would be marvelous. But of course, we're just the lead to a longer story that goes on to say why it's very, very important as well that they take over Greenland and everyone should fall into line to my great United States of America. And here's Mark Carney, basically on Boxing Day morning, turning around and saying this is carrying the joke too far, the casual disrespect, the poor math, and ignoring that workers on both sides of our border will be better off if we work together. Time to call it out, stand up for Canada, and build a true North American partnership. I don't know about you, Aaron. That sounds like a guy who would have been the finance minister, or indeed, God help us, the prime minister of Canada, reacting to more rubbish being spewed out of the yap of Donald J. Trump. But what's interesting is Mark Carney's name has been bandied about with a few others, including Chrystia Freeland, as possible successors to Justin Trudeau. Why would he choose this day where, of course, his tweet will be noticed even more than usual? It's a slow news day, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more made about this as newsrooms are restaffed in the wake of the holidays. But, this didn't happen for nothing. This is Mark Carney, I'm sure, basically sending up a flare saying, I'm here, I'm ready for action, let's see what the future brings. But right off the bat, I'm going to go foursquare up against Donald J. Trump, which is kind of interesting, Aaron, when you think about it, because I have yet to see any other high-ranking Canadian, politician, and I'm not blaming them because, quite frankly, engaging with Donald Trump is always a losing game. But here's Mark Carney, standing up for the team. Very, very interesting, and not the kind of, how can I put it, action or indeed maybe rambunctious action you'd expect from a guy whose reputation is really based on being a banker.
Jim, is it too much of a stretch? Because when I first saw the story, I thought to myself, well, here's a pretty obvious decision by Mark Carney to inject himself into a leadership run for the Liberals by saying something like this. Yeah. Fair?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think he, and even if he hasn't exactly nailed down all the details, and even if in the end, if he says, you know what, this isn't for me, this game is not worth the candle, he can still turn around right now today, and a lot of people's heads have turned, and a lot of people realize that all of a sudden Mark Carney's in this game. How long he'll play will be up to him. It'll be up, obviously, to the rank and file as well of the Liberal Party. But all that said, bottom line here, Mark Carney, as far as I'm concerned, is there, and I think you're 100% right. This is clearly putting the country and perhaps its federal Liberals on notice that he's in this game.
So, by the way, for those you mentioned kind of, in passing off the top, this is an answer, Mark Carney's anyway, to Donald Trump's post. Let me just read the part about Canada. The rest of it, as you said, the latest, I guess, thing that Donald Trump is talking about is getting Panama to give back the Panama Canal or God knows what else. And he wants to buy Greenland, I guess, as well. Yeah. So he's on a shopping spree. But he wrote about Canada after going on about the others. He wrote, also, to Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high, but if Canada was to become our 51st state, their taxes would be cut by more than 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. That was his message to Canada.
Yeah.
That's what Mark Carney responded to.
Absolutely. And the fact that Donald Trump is having so much fun trolling and not getting that much of a rise out of people, but Mark Carney, as I say, is probably the first broadside I've seen firing back at Donald Trump. It'll be interesting to see if he replies. Donald Trump has already made it clear he is scared witless of Chrystia Freeland. She took him to the cleaners during the last NAFTA negotiations, which is why he is sort of like most cowards, hopping up and down and saying how great it is that she's out of the game and she will not be missed. He better be careful of what he wishes for, because if she does come back in some kind of capacity, either as a negotiator or someone who's in charge of the negotiations, I think Donald Trump is going to have to, find some way to make this look like it was part of his brilliant plan all along. He had no intention of taking over Canada or Panama or Greenland. He always does that. But I got to tell you as well, Aaron, and I don't mention this on air as a rule because it is just such a horror show. But even though we're talking about Mark Carney, I'm thinking about all the people within the Republican Party, all the money people who basically made sure they bought and paid for this election to make sure that Donald Trump became president, who are wondering how long it's going to be before they invoke some amendment, get that guy out of office, put their boy J.D. Vance in there, and maybe we'll have, maybe sinister, but at least it'll be a little more cogent than the increasingly, drool-filled ramblings of a guy who, quite frankly, should have not been in office the first time, but here he is the second time. And one thing we have to make clear, or I'll make clear, I don't want to drag you into it, Aaron, this mandate, yes, he won. And as far as I'm concerned, he won fair and square. But, folks, please don't think it was a landslide. They like to use the word landslide. As far as I can tell, he only got 1.5% more in the popular vote. The spread in the House of Representatives, which quite frankly I think is going to be a real battlefield come the spring, they have they're ahead by about I think 8 seats, and 5 seats are up for grabs. Please, folks, don't think that this is the Republic of Donald Trump. Far from it. Oh, and the last thing is it's so funny because my wife usually doesn't talk about politics at all with me, and the thing is, she mentioned to me as well. It's very interesting. Apart from Eric Trump, who is described by many observers as being perhaps the least sharp tool in the Trump toolbox, you're not hearing anything from his kids. You're not hearing much from Don Jr. You're hearing zip from Ivanka. But there's a very interesting story that I think is just going on around the corner that we don't know about yet. But I really believe, Aaron, we're going to find out a whole heck of a lot more about what's happening in the Trump White House and around the Trump White House than we've been led to believe. This whole dynamic with Elon Musk, the idea that so many people have so much money invested in owning the Trump presidency. It's going to be fascinating to see when exactly they want to get bang for their buck, because quite frankly, alienating America's two biggest trading partners on what are basically aimless ramblings on the part of this guy who, quite frankly, should be, if he isn't already, on some kind of medication. I'm sure that's not what they signed up for. In the end, if it starts costing them money, it'll be adios, Mr. Trump.
I want to ask you another thing. This is kind of, I guess, tying into the same. Justin Trudeau, did you see this post today? He put up a video of Tom Brokaw explaining Canada to Americans. Now, the video goes back 14 years ago, and Justin Trudeau put this up today, so I'm trying to wonder what kind of message is being sent here.
Unless, we're presuming it's Justin Trudeau. After your deep fake earlier this week.
Well, fair enough, yeah.
But all that said, it's kind of weird. I mean, obviously, the thing is, did the post go up before or after Carney's post? Because quite frankly, if I was the Prime Minister of Canada, and the guy who was, purportedly going to be the finance minister, but then there was this big screw up. I'd like to, I guess I'd want to, say, me too. Oh, here I am. Don't worry. I'm still paying attention to this. Right. I'm still around. I'm still paying, I'm still in the loop. It may be more of that. I remember that, Tom Brokaw, explaining Canada to Americans. The problem is if you spend any amount of time looking at our relationship with the States and, in fact, talking to Americans know absolutely nothing about Canada and could care less. All they really know is their dollar gets about $1.40, even more now, And, as one person, the best line I ever heard, Aaron, I laughed out loud at a conference down in Washington. And somebody was talking about Toronto. And somebody from Atlanta referred to, oh, yeah, that town north of Buffalo, which I thought, okay, that's one way to put it. I almost thought of having a T-shirt made up to that effect. But with all that said, please don't underestimate the ignorance and indifference the vast majority of Americans feel towards this country.
And that's where we leave it. Jim, this is it for us as far as, pre-holidays is concerned.
Year.
Yeah. So I want to wish you all the best over the holidays, you and your wife and your family. And we'll catch you in another couple of weeks.
Exactly. And the same to you and Val. And honestly, when we come back, just think, I hope I'll be able to sleep between now and then because, Aaron, the Liberal leadership race is kicking off next month.
Yeah, what a great time that's going to be.
Yeah, I think I see a T-shirt coming down the pike.
Yeah, God, let's hope not. James Mennie, Jim, all the best to you. We'll talk soon. Be well.
You too, buddy.